everybody, and welcome to Between Plays Stock Market Strategies. Today we have Tech with Sandeep. How you doing, Sandeep?
I'm doing great, but busy packing.
Oh yeah, you're packing. You're going to the Linux Foundation, or where are you going? Where are you going
I,
next?
I'm going. I'm going to next week. I'll be in Seattle. I will be there for 4 days. So 15th, 16th for One Summit, which is the one of the premier Linux Foundation events, and then I'll be there for the DNTF, which is Developer and Testing Forum, for 2 days later. It's a sidecar event, it's co-located as well. So I'll be out there all next week, running around, doing interviews, talking to people, networking, that kind of stuff, and seeing what kind of information we can bring back for the next show.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And you also do the Linux Foundation too, right? That's not part of this.
Well, it is actually, right? So this is an event that the Linux Foundation Networking puts on that actually owns. I'm the vice chair for the Linux Foundation Networking Marketing Advisory Council. So this is something that we put on. Generally speaking, there's going to be a governing board meeting. There's going to be lots of talk tracks, lots of conferences, bunch of booths. I think it's going to be a really quite a sensational event. I think it's going to be very similar to what we did in Brampton a couple of weeks ago with Decoding Tech.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, that was a very nice experience. I mean, Decoding Tech, Kader Kahn, that was the first event that he had put on for Decoding Tech. And, we were a nice part of that. Uh, Naturally, it'll be that one next year. And as we were saying, we would love to be able to moderate a panel or two. That would be really, really cool. But let's talk about what we experienced. I think it's 2 weeks ago. That's how busy we've been.
Yeah, I know.
It's absolutely crazy. We've been so busy. It's nuts. Just building. But anyway, so I had my own experience. Let's hear about your experience.
Okay, well, I'll talk about my experience, but then you have to talk about your experience as well too, and the exposure to the show.
Sure.
So there were two talk tracks. One was completely on the metaverse. One was about 5G, and what that means to each other. It means to us as a I guess a human unit. I think what's really important to understand for viewers is metaverse depends on 5G. 5G is that infrastructure that's going to allow us to have mobile communications, that's going to allow us to build VR, AR type or mixed reality content as well too. But you need an infrastructure to do it. You can do it in your home by strapping your phone to your face. I'm not sure that how long lived that's going to be. Like these things like Oculus and that kind of stuff that are out there. Even the glasses the spot glasses that were there before for Snapchat, or they just, I think they were called spectacles or spotticles or whatever they were called.
Yeah.
Um, those were short lived, right? So people don't want to be recording all the time, but people do want to be able to have access to that mixed reality and that information on demand. We've become an on demand society, but on demand also means when I want it, not when you need to give it to me. And so, what I learned from this conference, and I think before I go to what I learned, the metaverse track was brilliant because it showed what the potential and the possibilities were or are for metaverse, what it can be, talking about avatars, live painting. And we had Hazel up on a stage and she was painting as well too, which I think you've seen the video as well too. So that was incredible. And then looking at what people are doing for security, cybersecurity, like the Constable Cloud people and some of the other people that were there. But then you flip to the other side, which is really more my forte, which is on the 5G side. You start looking at, okay, who are the panelists that we had on? What were we talking about? We were talking about 5G and how that infrastructure will support the metaverse and will support the things that we want to do. From everything from network slicing all the way up to network slicing, just really quickly, is how we segregate the wireless network to deliver particular services, whether it's um, news, private, IoT, anything like that. So that's a huge chunk. But the one thing, the three things that I took away from that conference was number one, the metaverse is coming. no matter what anybody thinks, whether anyone thinks it's hype or not. And Facebook changing their name to Meta was a little bit of a stupid move in my personal opinion. They changed it to Meta because they wanted to own the metaverse, and then they just laid off a whole bunch of people a couple of days ago,
Like
right?
11,000.
Yeah, exactly. And they clearly have no clue what they're doing.
You know
They
what's
just wanted
crazy?
to try and own it.
You know
Go
what's
ahead.
just what's crazy is that a lot of people don't, 11,000 is maybe hard to put into context, but there's some small towns in Quebec, Ontario, even throughout the world. There's small towns that have less than 11,000 people making up those small towns. Like he literally got rid of a small town of people.
Yeah, he did.
That's how
Absolutely.
that's how much 11,000 people is.
Well, here's the really funny thing, okay? And this is a complete aside, didn't come out of the conference, but this is something I'm going to talk about right now. So, Neil Stevenson wrote wrote a book um, called Snow Crash, and in Snow Crash, there was a metaverse, which is exactly what we're trying to create. But the principle under Snow Crash is that there is a visual virus that infects people by being in the actual metaverse.
Okay.
Somebody created a virus. It's a mental virus. It screws you up. I'm not going to give away the end of the book. It's a fantastic book. Read Neil Stevenson, Snow Crash. Cryptonomicon is the follow on, and there's a whole bunch of them. But
Okay.
Neil Stevenson is a very visionary writer. They took the word metaverse from that book, and nobody stopped to realize what that actually meant in the context of how it was written. So I find that a little bit amusing. But
Okay.
going back to our altruistic views of what it is we're trying to create here, this
Yeah.
metaverse.
Yeah.
On the 5G side, we need the infrastructure, we need the support. It's not 100% there. I think one of our panelists, I think it was Samer, who said that we're about 4.75G. We're not quite there, but we will be there. And that's really encouraging because we're going to be there. The metaverse is absolutely happening. I think the big question is going to be, okay, so Industry 4.0, Web 3.0, everyone has their own wallet. We're going to, it's very similar to crypto, we're going to control our own data and we can choose to give out what it is that we want and how we want to give it out. But the big question, the real question, the elephant in the room is, okay, that's fine. That'll be great for my kids. But right here, right now, for me or for my children who have been spraying digital data all over the place for the last 10 years, if not longer for me, what do we do about that? How do we transition from that to this Web 3.0 and these private wallets? I've already given away a ton of private data. So is it legislation? Is it going to be a transition process? We're certainly not shutting the internet down and rebooting it. Not we did that once, and that was because we got lucky. But otherwise, like, how are we going to get to that point where Web 3.0 is actually going to be in place? They're phenomenal concepts. These are things that we definitely need in society in life, and all of this was came out in our conference, that Decoding Tech Zone that we did. Kader did an amazing job getting all the right speakers and all the right panelists there. I was fortunate to be invited to be a facilitator, and I became the VP of Decoding Tech, so I'm going to be working on that next year as well too. But I think there's still a number of lingering questions. What the big takeaways were: we're almost there, but we're not ready for it yet. But it's going to happen. Those are the things.
So just for the people that are watching out there, you had mentioned the name Sammer, but I mean, because you know who you're talking about, but the viewers
Oh,
probably
I apologize. Yes.
yeah. So I just wanted to, for the viewers out there, Sammer owns 10% of, unless he just bought something recently, but from when we were at the Decoding Tent, it owns 10% of the telecommunications industry, mostly in rural areas throughout Canada, and does business with the Canadian government, and communicates with Elon Musk, NASA, and all this kind of stuff. So he's someone that really knows what he's talking about. Just so that people understand that the people that were at Decoding Tech, um, like Cotter did a really, like you're saying, he did an excellent job because you had some innovative and very intelligent business minded people that were there, and I was impressed. I was impressed, and Alex was there as well. We do crypto with Alex. Alex was there. He joined me to be able to speak to certain people like Michael Johnson, and look at the metaverse and stuff to see what's up and coming. And it was really great to be able to speak to the people that were there. But just mentioning Samer, yeah, he's the things that he was saying. He knows what he's talking about because of the fact he does own 10% of the telecommunications industry. He does deal with, Canada national defense and stuff like that. And he does deal with NASA. He does talk with, deal, like he does communicate with NASA. And, he's in communications with all these people, which is great because he has knowledge, exactly what you're talking about. He has knowledge, in-depth knowledge, behind the scenes knowledge of where we are and where we should be and where we're going and all this kind of stuff. And his lecture was great, was excellent.
Absolutely, and go further. Like on that panel, there were a number of people that were there. There were Samer Bichet, Perry Chappelle, um, uh, Radu Celia, and Mandeep Singh was actually hosting it as well too, or being the moderator. So it was
There's
a
like
great.
Samil and Adrian.
Yeah, but
Samil,
and then we had Samila Ismail, and then we had
yeah,
Adrian Ma as well
yeah,
too.
yeah,
So I mean, like very very powerful thought leaders in
yeah,
the industry. A lot of really excellent conversation and dialogue, and I think it was fantastic. So just so everybody understands, right, we were shooting for about 150 people to show up at this thing, and we probably had about close to 298 people showing up, if not more. And then we had more sponsors and more booths than we really wanted. I think, and we're really thinking next year if we can do 1,000 plus because it was just phenomenal this event. Maybe it's a multi-day event. We're going to start discussing that over the next couple of days, next couple of weeks, excuse me. And I think the other thing that's really good to throw out there is, this is about innovation. This is about being Canadian. This is about being local and expressing local talent. Local being Canadian talent and getting it to the market, and also helping them, with financing, business plans, things like that, and getting everybody to that next level so that they can be part of the next wave of the internet, which is happening right now. And if
yeah,
people don't think it's happening, they're wrong. It's happening right now.
yeah. It is happening.
This is right now 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024 is exactly what I went through in 1992, 1993, 1994. It's happening again. There is a complete and utter revolution of how we communicate and how we're going to interact with each other. And this event was pivotal in bringing that out or eking that out so that people could understand. And I think that, and the other thing that's really important to point out is this event was put on 100% by volunteers. So
Yeah,
much
not
like the,
quick. Only in a few months. It was
that's
fast.
right, that's right, that's
Also
right.
very, very quick.
It was done on 100% by volunteers. Nobody was paid to do this. Everybody volunteered their time because they believed in this, including myself
Yeah,
and
yeah, no,
including
yeah.
Kader.
Same here.
Everybody,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly, right? Everybody volunteered their time to participate in this to make this the event that it was and that it can be in the
Oh, it can be
future.
bigger next year. Oh yeah.
And I think that the most amazing thing about the volunteer is the collaboration, the community piece, because collaboration community is really what's going to make the metaverse moving forward. It's what's going to make organizations moving forward. I think coming out of the pandemic, everybody wants to be closer together. They want to speak with each other. They want to meet people. It's been too long that we've been trapped in our houses, and I think that we're a social animal. And not only that, it's like just a social connectivity. It's not just being about I'm social, Sandeep is social. It's about I want to be in an environment where I can connect and talk to different people and see things and patterns and things happen amongst these things. And this becomes really interesting because that's the same kind of basal model that is going to apply onto the metaverse. That's why the metaverse is going to work, because we are going to be able to be social no matter where we are. And I think
Yeah.
that's going to be a core basis of it.
Yeah. I want to bring you back to something that you said. You said that you see a change in revolution, right, in telecommunications, something that you witnessed in 92, 93, 94. All right. Now, for the viewers out there, maybe you, because you lived it, you're living it when you say it, but no one understands what you mean by it. And I'll explain to
Sure.
you why. All right. Because the internet only came out for a consumer 95, 95. And the thing is that's when it went online, right? But the thing is, you're talking about 92, 93, 94 when internet wasn't online for the regular consumer. So are you trying to make a distinction that the change will be so great that we're comparing it pre-internet to internet? And now you're saying that although we do have the internet, the next one is going to be so immersive that it's going to feel like we're there, sort of like what Zuckerberg is saying.
So okay, I'll roll back from the Zuckerberg comment because I'm not a big supporter, and I think he just jumped on the bandwagon, tried to do something, and failed. At least in the last couple of weeks, and so eventually they'll get it right. But strapping a phone to your face is just not it. At least that's my opinion. But if we roll back, think about when radio was invented.
Yeah.
Think about when people huddled around the radio. Think about when television was invented.
Yeah.
When
50.
people huddled around the television.
Yeah.
Then the next big revolution is probably when internet and computers and all that came together.
Into the
Computers,
home.
people,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly, into the home. And so you've got that. It's, again, we're talking communication. So it's communication, communication, communication. Everyone gets together. Now we had slow pipes. We didn't even have DSL at the time, right? We had ISDN connections and we had real T1s, T3s, and anything that was barely usable, we used.
Yeah.
But it created connectivity. I think what's interesting is that the internet was based on a protocol that was created by DARPA, which was an IP protocol, Internet Protocol, which allows you to spray packets all over the place, and it was meant for defense.
So
Which
yeah, that's
means that if you're
DARPA's defense.
if that's originally how it started.
Yes.
So if you're trying to send a communication from point A to point B and that breaks, then it will just automatically send to point C. But in fact, the protocol is a little bit more complicated than that, and I'll try and be very, very simple about it. Is if you have one word like the letter A, you'll break it up into a whole bunch of pieces, share it over a whole bunch of different connections, and same connection but over a whole bunch of different IP addresses, which will eventually get to your destination and then reassemble it. That's what's happening with everything that's being done. That's what it was done for. So if something goes down, everything else stays up. Then it became an academic phenomenon in the mid 80s. And then when I was in university in the 90s, early 90s, um, then the academics started using it for an academic network in order to pass information back and forth with each other, whether it was research or whatever. And then you had the nascence, the Web3C, you had the Yahoo starting up at the time. It was all like, okay, so how do I find anything in this massive mess of crap? So that's when you have these meta search engines that started showing up. So talking 92, 93, 94, 95. Search engines like Google, we take for granted, didn't exist back then.
No.
You had to figure out, you had to speak to people. You actually still had to use your phone. You couldn't text anybody, right?
No.
And so it was, which IP address do I need to go to do what? And they would circulate around, and it was almost viral, right? It was like viral spreading of, oh, go to this site, go to this site. And then the Web3C showed up. Then they created the protocol for web pages. They created the protocol for building web pages. And that is now some of the stuff that we call WordPress and Blogger and things like that, which are automated systems, and even Shopify is part of that whole kind of thing. And so the stuff that we had then was so nascent, but look at what we have now because of that. What I'm saying, and the analogy I'm trying to make, or the analogy I'm trying to make, is that what is happening right now is analogous to what happened in 1991, 1992, 93, 94, even 95. Because when you say 95 was, when that's when internet sort of started becoming popularized, you're right. And that's when companies were sitting there going, well, why do I need internet? Why do I need a web page?
That's
Why do
so
I need this?
true.
Right?
It's so true.
Right? And you can still go out and find rarely web pages where you go, oh, that's so 1997. Why are
Oh
you
my
still there?
God, it's
Right?
so true. It's so ridiculous.
But the analogy now is with the metaverse. Think about it. It's almost timed perfectly. 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025. The same thing's going to happen. And everyone's suddenly going to go, oh crap, I need real estate in Decentraland or Sandbox or whatever, whichever place is, right? What's going to happen is they're all going to have to communicate with each other, and you're going to have an avatar that's common. It's going to be able to jump from one to the other at some point. And it is going to be a completely decentralized system which will allow you to do what you want in it and be completely immersed. You'll do banking, you will do shopping, you'll do groceries, you'll do all sorts of stuff. People will get married eventually. People will interact. People will buy homes. People will buy. People are already buying real estate now and developing them inside those those metaverse connected universes, right? So that's happening now, but this is all nascent. Give it 5 years when the infrastructure catches up, we're
Yeah,
done.
I'm listening to you. I'm listening to you, and some people would say, "Oh man, this guy, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Like that's trippy. Like we're looking. That's a whole other world, right? He's been smoking too much, and he's like, whoa, I see it all happening. But I'll tell you how what you're saying makes complete sense to me. All right, and to all those people out there that think that you're probably smoking the pipe. Well, you know what? I think that they're
Which I'm
completely
not, by the
wrong.
way.
No, you're not, but they're wrong, and I'll tell you why. Go look at any kid today that's 5 years old and older and go watch him playing Minecraft or go watch him playing on Roblox. Watch him building stores in that 3D world. They teach you on YouTube, YouTube, and you could say how to build a Nike store on Roblox or whatever on Minecraft. I get them confused, right? Like I don't know. I know you can build games on Roblox and stuff like that, but you know what? You can a child at 7. So the other day, I was like, "Ooh, this is pretty cool. You're telling me we can build a Nike store on Minecraft or whatever?" You go to YouTube and they teach you put all of the blocks like this, do this, put these blocks here, grab these blocks, get rid of these, you don't need this anymore. Teach you exactly, and then it even shows you how to do the swooshes and everything. And then you go in, and I was just going, "What the hell?" You got like 6-year-olds doing this. So I think that maybe the timeline might be off a little bit because I think it's that generation. I think it's those 5-year-olds that are going to be that's the beginning. It's these kids.
Well, that's what I said, right? It's
So
my
10
children's
years.
children.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's right. What you said in the beginning, because I think that, I look at them and I'm like, well, by the time they're 17, 18, and 19, any one of these kids could be like the next Zuckerberg. I'm giving him as an example because what did he do with Facebook, right? It started in school. It started between peer to peer in school and everything, and then it just grew and blew up. But he took advantage of a system in 2004 or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that these little kids, the world that you're talking about, I think that these are the kids that's going to bring that into the next realm. And then their children are going to be deeply involved into that world.
Yeah, at that point, yeah, their children will be deeply involved in that world, and those children's children, if they figure out how to have children while being in the metaverse, will come up with a Web 4.0.
You never know. Maybe we're going to have all these new technologies in place where like in the movies. There's so many movies out there that's just so crazy that when they talk about the future, you just go, yeah, that's just wacko. Like embryos and
Yeah, yeah. Well,
women
that's the
don't
thing.
even
I
have to
mean,
give birth.
surrogates is a great example, right? Where people no one goes out and they stay where they are, but it's very dystopian, right? I try to, as much as I like dystopian fiction, I try to stay away from that when it comes to reality because I don't think that we are going to create a dystopian society. I think we're trying really hard, at least some actors are, but I don't think that we will go down that path.
Yeah,
But the thing is, when you use things like the metaverse and you want to talk about possibilities, right? My eyes were opened up at Decoding Tech in terms of what the possibilities actually are. Like for arts and culture, they're massive.
Yeah.
For telemedicine, for remote working,
Yeah.
for interaction. For I mean, Google's sort of doing this right now, where you can go on do a virtual tour of the Louvre in Paris, right? But imagine actually being there and experiencing it through some VR, AR, MR kind of system, which
Oh,
is basically the metaverse, right?
yeah.
But the other thing that we have to think about as well too, because one of the gentlemen on our panels, and I forget who it was talking about security in the metaverse. Now that's going to also be a big thing as well too, because it doesn't work the same way now. And if we're talking about, I go back to Neil Stevenson and Snow Crash and the origin of the concept of metaverse. And I shouldn't say that's the origin of the concept of metaverse. It's where the name came from. But anything from the Matrix to simulacron, where there's three different levels of universes and who's controlling what and all that kind of stuff. That's been around since the 50s. That concept. So we're just building it right now.
Yeah.
But
And
security inside of all of this is going to be paramount.
oh yeah, when the guy that we saw that was there, Cloud Constable, that's what it was
Yep.
called, Cloud
Yep.
Constable. It was pretty interesting. The decoding tech was I enjoyed it as well. Alex enjoyed it as well. We really liked the fact that we got to see um, live, live actual applications, running applications that people are only talking about what's going to happen, as you stated, what's going to happen in the future, but they were showing us live things that already exist. It's just because it's so new that not everybody's using it. And
That's right.
but there are certain things like that are being used and are publicly traded companies. And I don't even want to mention the name of the company, so I'll do that a one-on-one show. So we won't name the company, but we'll name the CEO of the company, Mandeep.
Mm-hmm.
And what he's doing in his field, I mean, that's amazing. So he has a publicly traded company. We will talk about that. And that's what I like too, is that we have a lot of companies here that are publicly traded. A lot of people probably never even heard of it and whatnot, and you have great tech. So decoding tech for us, for between play stock market strategies, is a great place to learn about what's happening in the private sector, also the public sector, creating creating more contacts, networking, and of course being a part of something that's growing, because we're doing cross platforming, right? We're helping each other, we're collaborating. I don't mind um, talking about on how amazing the event was, because it was. And at the same time, hopefully next year we get to moderate, and that's great for us as well, because it gets our name out there. So we're helping each other, aiding each other to grow, and it was amazing. I'm looking forward to next year. Honestly, I'm looking forward
Me
to it,
too.
because we are going back to the PDAC between plays. We just actually made a deal to be able to get back next year. So for the mining conference, so we have the mining conference next year, and then we're going to have um, the decoding tech. And of course, look, we started in 2020. Everybody knows the story that's been following us a long time. I lost my nephew in February of 2021, so therefore I didn't do anything for almost a year. I started again in January, and we're just growing. The numbers are absolutely crazy. And we went to the PDAC, and now every year we're just going to be doing 2, 3, 4 different conferences, and that's going to really, really help. Honestly, my takeaway was that Kader did an excellent job, and everybody that was involved in an extra job. I mean, you gave a shout out to us when you were on stage. That was awesome, and I'm looking forward to being a part of it, and even more this coming year.
Well, I think that the next year's going to be big. The year after is going to be bigger, and then we're going to see what happens for year four. But I think the next 24 months is going to just change the face of it because the timing for the conference is perfect.
Oh yeah.
And if I align it, again, what I went through, between late 80s to when I graduated from university, it's we're on parallel tracks right now. So there is going to be a big change. And so those companies that are trying and failing, and as much as I'm not a fan of Facebook, right? They have a lot of money behind them,
Oh yeah.
and they tried, they failed. They're going to try and fail and try and fail, and eventually they will succeed, much like everyone else will. So I think what we're hearing right now in the news is a lot of these public companies are trying and failing, laying off because there's economic downturn and or inflation or whatever the case may be. But they're all going to succeed in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, as long as they stick to it.
Yeah, well, they don't have a choice. They've manufactured a little bit of the market from a marketing standpoint, but the technology was always begging to be used, so that was there.
What I really like is we have to get Samar on because of the fact that, looking at the base of everything, which comes back to the first shows that we
Infrastructure
made,
and backhaul, yeah, absolutely.
infrastructure, telecommunications. I mean, they play the biggest. It's almost like in the future, because we look at all these companies, right? And we're like going, whoa, look at this company, look at this company, look at Facebook. But Facebook cannot exist without a telecommunications company.
Correct.
It's just crazy. So it's like the king is still Bell. It's still Telus. It's still Rogers. It's whoever has the
Verizon,
right.
AT&T, Orange, you name it, O2.
They are the kings, and the more we build on them, the more value they have, the more important
They,
role that they
the
play.
telcos learned a long time ago that they needed to layer applications on top of their infrastructure because that's what consumes bandwidth and that's what they charge for.
It's crazy. It's crazy because people don't really realize just how important a role they play. I mean, they could almost set a price, and almost everybody's going to be like, we gotta pay it."
Well, they can almost do that, but thankfully
Almost.
that's why we have the CRTC, the
Exactly.
FCC,
I know exactly.
right? So
But that's how
let's not get
that's
carried away. But even though
yeah.
FCC and the CRTC probably need a little bit of reform,
Well,
but
look,
that's a whole other show, by the way.
a whole other show. And the thing is that what I really like too is the fact that these companies and everything we're talking about all come back again to like maybe the second, third show, zero trust.
Yeah, absolutely.
Crazy. It's so crazy that it just this whole thing, and it goes right back down. So even for investment purposes, all these shows that we're talking and stuff like that. I mean, I see almost like a safe place to put money, and this is my opinion, of course, is telecommunication companies. I just see them growing in value because without them, how do you? And I think that's why Elon Musk, and that's why people say that Tesla and all that. It's not a car company. It's a technology company because if you look at everything now, they're throwing up Starlink, right? Satellites, right? Why? Part of telecommunications, right? And then it comes all back down to getting Samar on the show. We get Samar on the show so he can talk to us about all this stuff. So it's not just coming from me.
Absolutely.
It'd be great to do a panel. You, myself, and Samar.
Sure. Sure.
Let's set
Well,
that up. Let's
absolutely
set
we
that
will.
up. And you know what? So, Sandeep, thank you so much for being on the show. So for everybody out there, always research, prepare, plan, execute, stay strong, and let's talk to Sammer. Take it easy, man.
All right.
Bye. This episode is brought to you by TriStar, West Island, and 360 Punch, where there's something for everyone. 2144 Trans Canada Route, Dorval, Quebec, H9P 2N4. Go to their website for more information. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Betweenplays Stock Market Strategies. Hit the like and the subscribe button. Head off into our description below if you'd like to know where all of our social media links are, and also the podcast, whether it be Apple or Spotify. We will be doing interviews with CEOs, with analysts, and it's not only on the stock market itself, but also on cryptocurrencies and blockchains. We will have guest speakers. We will be doing panels. You will be able to enjoy a lot of different content. Have a great day, and always remember, research, prepare, plan, execute. Stay strong.